You think Hamilton's finished. Admit it, 12 years at the top and one bad Saturday made you switch sides. But here's what you missed. Lewis doesn't collapse. He calculates. The media played it off as frustration. But when he said there's a lot going on in the background that's not great, it wasn't a complaint. It was a coded transmission, a warning, a move on the chessboard. And someone inside Ferrari decoded it. Riccardo Adami, the engineer Ferrari gave Hamilton to integrate him into the team. But insiders say he's become something else entirely, a translator of rebellion. After the race, during the silent debrief, Hamilton didn't raise his voice. He whispered one thing. You ask for feedback, then ignore it when it threatens your plan. That line never aired, and it wasn't about strategy, it was about power. Because what Hamilton saw in the data from FP3 wasn't just a mistake. It was a choice, one that would leave him exposed on Sunday and put Leclerc exactly where the team wanted him. On paper, FP3 looked routine. But dig into the data, and you find something Ferrari hoped no one would. Two cars, same track, but opposing philosophies. Hamilton asked for rear stability. Leclerc, rotation on entry. That's normal. But what's not normal is this. Hamilton's setup request was implemented and then reversed, quietly, overnight. Telemetry logs from Saturday morning showed a shift in rear ride height and diff preload, both crucial for braking confidence. By quali, those settings were gone. Who signed off on the change? Internal whispers point to a strategic override by the main performance group. Not Adami, not Hamilton. Someone higher. That's why after Q2, Hamilton didn't just sound frustrated. He sounded betrayed. I told them it wouldn't hold under braking. That radio wasn't broadcast live, but it was recorded. And here's where it gets deeper. Leclerc's car kept the original request. His rotation, his balance, untouched. Two cars, one priority. And in that moment, Hungary became more than a race. It became proof. Proof that someone inside Ferrari is gambling on one narrative and Lewis isn't in it. What did he do next? He didn't protest, he adapted. But the tools he asked for were quietly denied again in Parc Fermé. They call it Parc Fermé, but in Hungary it was more like a vault, one where Ferrari locked away every adjustment Hamilton needed to fight back. After qualifying, engineers reviewed the brake-shape telemetry. The traces showed inconsistent pressure buildup. Hamilton wasn't overdriving, he was compensating. His comment in the pen, when you have a feeling, you have a feeling. Translation, I told you before quali, you chose not to listen. Inside the garage, Adami pushed for a front brake migration tweak. Minor on paper, essential under load. The response from the top? Not within protocol, post-setup freeze. But here's the twist. Leclerc's side got clearance for tire blanket recalibration, a change with race impact. Two standards, same team. Hamilton didn't lash out. He watched. He waited. Because this wasn't about Saturday anymore. It was about control. Every denied adjustment, every unexplained veto, it all pointed to one thing. Someone inside Ferrari believes Charles is the only bet worth backing. And Lewis? He's starting to act like a man building leverage, not just lap time. Because the race wasn't the battle. The briefing before Sunday morning was. And that's where he dropped the question no one expected. That was the question. Sunday morning, closed briefing room, no cameras, only the key voices, drivers, technical chiefs, strategy heads. And in the middle of it, Lewis broke protocol, calm but direct. Do you want two cars or just one? Silence. No one expected him to go there, not before lights out. One insider described the room as frozen. It wasn't just what he said, it was what he implied. That Ferrari had stopped treating both drivers as assets. That someone, somewhere, had made a choice. And the context made it sting even more. Leclerc was starting on pole, Hamilton down in P12. The narrative was locked. But Lewis wasn't asking for favoritism. He was calling out the illusion of fairness. That question landed like a grenade. And Adami? He didn't flinch. Word is he nodded, just once, and flipped the page on his strategy brief. That move alone, it told Hamilton everything. The race hadn't even started, and the internal war was already live. But Hungary still had 70 laps to run. And what happened on lap 43? That's when the mask slipped completely. What if I told you Leclerc's radio wasn't just frustration? It was revelation. It wasn't just a frustrated outburst. Why am I losing time? Something's wrong with the car. Leclerc's voice cracked, raw, unfiltered. But listen again, and you'll hear something deeper. Confusion. Not about strategy, about trust. Lap 43 marked the beginning of Leclerc's fade. From the outside, it looked like tire drop-off, but insiders say the truth was buried in the chassis logs. Ferrari knew Leclerc had a chassis imbalance, a hairline misalignment on the left rear suspension point, minor enough to pass inspection, major enough to destabilize under thermal load. It had shown up in post-FP2 vibration metrics, and they didn't tell him. Why? Because they were gambling on clean air, on track position masking the defect, on silence buying them time. But when the performance dropped and the car stopped responding mid-corner, Leclerc realized he'd been sent out with a compromised tool. The irony? While Hamilton felt politically isolated, Leclerc had been technically betrayed. That moment changed everything. Not just for the race, but for the entire Ferrari dynamic. Because from that point on, Leclerc stopped asking. He started doubting. And someone picked up on that doubt and saw an opportunity. Riccardo Adami didn't raise his voice. He didn't write a memo. But in the last third of the Hungarian GP, he did something far more symbolic. He changed the tone. And Hamilton noticed. While Leclerc wrestled with the failing chassis, Adami shifted focus, not overtly. But Hamilton began receiving real-time cues Ferrari rarely gave him. Live feedback on tire deltas, brake balance evolution, opponent lift points, things they usually filtered through strategy layers. One word stood out over the radio: trust. It wasn't tactical, it was personal. This wasn't a mutiny, it was something more dangerous, a quiet realignment. Adami had seen enough. His loyalty wasn't to politics, it was to the racer giving him honesty and being denied basic tools. Insiders say this wasn't the first time he's done it. At Toro Rosso, he once overruled a pit wall call mid-race to protect his driver. But Hungary felt different. This was Ferrari. This was Hamilton. And from that moment, the whispers began. Is Adami still Leclerc's man, or has he become Hamilton's firewall inside the Scuderia? Because if one engineer can tilt the flow of information, the balance of power can shift faster than a pit stop. But Ferrari's leadership? They're not blind. And what they did after the race proves they've already drawn lines. It didn't make headlines. It wasn't even in the press notes. But after the Hungarian GP, Lewis Hamilton wasn't in the main debrief room. Not excluded, but displaced. Ferrari split the post-race analysis into two groups. One with Leclerc, the technical chiefs and performance leads. The other, a smaller room, with Hamilton, Adami, and two data engineers. No Binotto, no Vasseur. The excuse? Time optimization. The reality, political containment. According to team insiders, Hamilton's comments in the Sunday briefing, "Do you want two cars or just one?" crossed a line. Not because of tone, but because they undermined the internal chain of command. Ferrari's response wasn't anger, it was segmentation. Divide the information, control the narrative, isolate the influence. Adami? He didn't resist. He followed Hamilton into that smaller room and brought a copy of the master dataset. Not a summary, the raw stream. That act didn't go unnoticed. Leclerc's side furious, not at Hamilton, but at what it meant. A fracture had formed, and someone was already choosing sides. But the biggest clue that Ferrari's foundation is shifting, it came from someone who stayed silent all season, until now. And his name might just unlock the entire plan. He hadn't said a word all season. After leaving Ferrari for Visa RB, Laurent Millet vanished from Marinaro's political theater. But in Hungary, he sent a message, and it wasn't coded, it was surgical. In a rare off-record comment caught by a French journalist near the paddock, Millet was asked about Hamilton's adaptation to Ferrari. His reply? It's not that Lewis is learning Ferrari, it's that Ferrari is learning Lewis. Some don't like what they're seeing. That line rippled through the garage, because Millet knows exactly how Ferrari thinks. He helped build the system. If he's warning that Hamilton is reshaping it from the inside, he's not guessing, he's confirming.
And that's the twist. Hamilton doesn't need to overthrow the power structure. He just needs to expose its contradictions from the inside with precision, with Adami. This isn't just about 2025. It's about rewriting what Ferrari represents. Not nostalgia, not obedience. Performance with autonomy. The Hungary GP wasn't a defeat. It was a signal, a line in the sand. And those who thought Hamilton looked isolated, they missed the truth hiding in plain sight. This is how revolutions begin. Quietly, from the inside, with data and one engineer who dares to listen.